I want to throw it away, but I'm going to feel really bad. So I'll take it home, and my kids will play with it. It will not go to waste.
Welcome to Driving Change, where we go for a ride with leading technology executives and dig deep into their beliefs, habits, routines, and influences. Today we take a ride with Lisa Schlosser, CTO of Thomson Reuters FindLaw, and discuss a variety of topics from the role of the CTO, Anita Borg Institute, positive intent, balance, and the power of habit. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how's it going for you?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So today we're going to take a little ride over to my favorite coffee shop, Dunn Brothers.
Awesome.
And we'll talk on the way there, and we'll talk on the way back. If we run out of things to talk about, we could always do some drag racing because we are in a Prius. I'm just kidding.
I love the green grass sticking out of the snow.
Yeah, this is the most unbelievable winter day.
I know. I gotta go running this afternoon.
Let's start with Thomson Reuters. You've been at Thomson Reuters for quite a long time, and you're currently the Chief Technology Officer of FindLaw. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So can you talk a little bit about, high level, what FindLaw is?
Yeah, FindLaw is an organization that does business development for small and solo law firms. So we help bring our customers, clients, to become their customers.
And you're a CTO in other divisions
I have
as well?
been, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What were those other divisions?
There was one around Westlaw Business.
Okay.
There was one around government, corporate, and academic. One
Yep.
around content marketplace.
I find it interesting. There's a lot of companies that have CIOs, and then they also have CTOs.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are definitely building software,
Yes.
right? And delivering that, and often there's a CTO involved when you're doing that. Have you seen the role change much since you've been in the role?
Yeah, one of the things maybe two things I'd point out is, for one thing, data is definitely more prevalent.
Yeah.
So there's rarely a recommendation I bring forth that doesn't have some sort of data or analytics associated with it to back up the recommendation. The other thing I think is really interesting, and I see it a lot in FindLaw, is that technology is permeating lots of different career paths. So whether you're in marketing or sales or finance or HR, there's a lot of technology associated in those areas, and the people in those areas are much more tech savvy as well. So I think it used to be where technology was one of those things where someone else would take care of it. It's kind of this mysterious thing, and now it's sort of all over the place. So the role is a little bit different, and what are those areas that you sort of maintain and control and govern and drive strategy, and what are those technologies that are great for those disciplines that are okay to sort of live wherever they live?
So one thing I really want to talk to you about is, I know you're part of the Anita Borg organization. There's very few women in technology. It'd be great to hear more about what Anita Borg is and what you've learned and what your view is on why there isn't a lot of women in technology, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, the Anita Borg Institute was the brainchild of a woman named Anita Borg and Telly Whitney. Anita Borg passed away from cancer, but Telly Whitney is still the president of the organization. And it's really about bringing more women into acquiring, attracting, advancing, and retaining women in technology. Okay. So their number one event that they founded is called the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing.
So what's the reason that they've identified that there is so few women in technology?
Yeah, Yeah, so when you think about the women in technology, the first thing you need to do is attract them.
Yep.
So one of the organizations that they partnered with is the Harvey Mudd School, and Harvey Mudd College has done some amazing things in trying to attract women into the field. One of the things they did is they renamed their Intro to Computer Science class. So instead of calling it, Intro to Computer Science using Java, they named it something like Creative Problem Solving with Technology and Science leveraging Python. And
that's a very different name.
Very different name. And what they've done is they've attracted women who never took any computer science courses before, and so they're taking their first one in college and finding that it's a very inviting and welcoming environment.
Okay. That
they like it and they stick with it. So the next thing they did is they said, well, let's send everybody that goes through that course to the Grace Hopper celebration. So they pay for a whole bunch of people to go out there and through scholarships and such. And then finally they do like an internship or a research project between your freshman and sophomore year, so that you can actually apply the things that you've learned in your computer science class. So you can see immediate application to the types of things that you're learning. And they found that their numbers went from about 10% in 2006 to almost 50% of increasing the number of women getting computer science degrees. So that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Then there's so that's attracting. Then you want to advance women in technology, and there's various things at Thomson Reuters. This has been where our focus has been. So we've looked at we've done things like done talent reviews for the women in the organization. We've looked at our job descriptions and said, are they gender neutral? Are they inviting to women wanting to apply for them? Sometimes it's a matter of just really honing in on like tapping somebody on the shoulder or creating communications around, hey, this job is open. Are you interested in applying?
Are women less likely to apply to jobs? Or?
Yeah, it's interesting. The statistics say that women will not apply for a role unless they meet 100% of the criteria, where men will apply if they meet as much as 60%.
Really?
So sometimes that little bit of encouragement gets them to apply, and you get the ability to advance.
Looking back, now that you're in the role of the CTO, looking back at your career and thinking about yourself as a 25-year-old, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
Oh my gosh, so many things. One of the things I learned late in my career was we were doing a retrospective, and I was working with a facilitator, and this retrospective had an opportunity to be very controversial, very could be a lot of conflict. And so as I talked to her about what could we do to encourage open, honest conversation, but create a safe environment where people wanted to do that. And she introduced me to the phrase, assume positive intent.
Okay.
And it was like this light bulb went off, because it really set a different context where I started to think about things in terms of the outcome that we want is usually the same thing. So we want to deliver software on time, on budget. We want these features, but the approach and how you get there is often where the conflict arises. So that phrase, I wish I would have known about it sooner or thought about it sooner, because it really started to make me want to ask different questions or approach things differently. So instead of getting frustrated or there's conflict or whatever, you start to say, well, I'm curious, why do you think that? Or why do you want to approach it that way? What have you learned? And you sometimes it might be something as simple as there was a wrong assumption that someone came up with, or or sometimes they think of things in different ways and you're like, wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
That'd be a great idea.
So maybe a different angle on kind of looking back. What are some of the things that you think you did right that helped propel you to the position you're in now?
I think having a strong technology background is obviously important if you want to advance in technology.
Yep.
I think one of the things I did over time is took on, I'll say, broadening assignments. So new roles, new opportunities, doing things different.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they were lateral, so it wasn't necessarily a promotion. So you started to think about what are those skills that I want to develop? Is there a certain type of technology I haven't done yet? Like, I've worked in the data center environment, I've worked in software development, I've worked in kind of corporate shared services.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot of different areas.
Yeah, and you start to draw out that map, and it's like, what do you really, really like to do that you haven't done yet? That would be fun.
Is there any views that you have on business or technology that may have differed from earlier on in your career?
I don't know.
Perhaps for me, I'll give you an example. I thought if you owned a business, it would be very easy. It's not. I found out that it's not. There's a lot of challenges in that. But I think a lot of people that I work with and a lot of the companies I work with, earlier on in people's career, I think they kind of feel like they get in a job and they get everything they need, and maybe it's a younger generation thing, but I feel like you really have to work for it no matter what, right? Versus it's not going to be all given to you. You're not going to get all the education you want from your college. You're not going to get all the education you want from your company. It's the people that probably reach out and go after it might actually get a little bit ahead.
That is, I mean, that resonates with me too, where you really own your career.
Yeah.
And I think there are some that think, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I did have one point too, where, well, it's up to my manager to see that I'm working really hard, or figure out what that next assignment is for me. And that's where I think, over time you learn that no, it's you own your career.
From a role perspective, being a chief technology officer and then also being in the industry you're in, how do you collect your information about and ongoing learning about your industry and ongoing learning about your role and how you can do your role better? Where do you get your information?
Yeah, I mean, I read everything. Although I thought it was interesting, I was reading the other day that something that said you really only retain about 10% of everything you read. So now I'm trying to decide, should I read more with the idea that I'll actually retain more, or just really concentrate on something?
What's some of the associations that you're part of?
Well, I'm on the board of the Anita Borg Institute, and then the Minnesota High Tech Association. I'm on the board there. Those are the technology-related ones. I also do a lot of stuff with STEM related efforts. So, working
STEM
with schools,
is
science, technology, engineering, and math. So, I've spoken at schools. I've been on panels. And then, of course, a lot of the women in technology groups. MHTA has a women leading in technology group. That's part of it as well, and it's really popular.
Is there any books that have influenced you or that you've gifted most often to people?
There's one I really like. So when I read books, I more often read serial killer murder mystery books are my favorites. But
just like my wife.
So, but I read a book that I really liked. It was called The Power of Habit, and it's by Charles Duhigg.
I met him.
You did?
Yes.
Oh my God, I totally wanted to meet him.
I was part of the first group of people to get that book. I got on some CEO book list.
Did you like it?
Yeah, and then I met him a week later. It was the weirdest thing. I got the book, I was reading it, and then I went with my friend that works at New York Times, where he works. I don't know if he still works there. And we went to a happy hour, and she introduced me to him, and I was like, I just got your book. And he, because I guess they put it out to a group of people to get reactions from them, and great guy, and the book is phenomenal.
I love the book.
the last question I have for you is, thinking about other people that might be on the show in the future and a lot of tech leadership people that are watching the show, what one question would you have for other tech leaders?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to one question. I think one of the things I've really enjoyed about meeting other people and going to panels and stuff is really helping, really learning through their experience. So as I'm thinking out loud, maybe there's a question around sort of that advice, similar to what you were asking. That assume positive intent was so powerful.
Yeah.
As I was developing my career and understood that I'm guessing that there are some other sort of aha moments that people have had in their career. It'd be great to understand when did the light bulb go off for them and what was the situation.
Yeah. What is that aha moment that they have, that learning piece?
Yeah.
That's great. Well, here we are. Thanks
Great.
again.
Thank you.
For being on the show. And
really appreciate it.
all right.
Great
Thanks
time.
a lot.
Yep.